In this lecture, I'm going to describe about the biomechanics of gait with functional requirements and demands. As we all know that initial contact is the surface for the stance in gait cycle. It requires to make contact with the surface with weight acceptance. The hip will be in 25 to 30 degree flexion in this surface along with 3 to 5 degree flexion at the knee, whereas the ankle will be in 0 degree. The prime movers, which are responsible for these range of motion, are tibialis anterior, quadriceps, gluteus maximus, and medius. Gluteus, gluteus maximus and medius will be responsible for hip range of motion and quadriceps at the knee, whereas the tibialis anterior will maintain the ankle into 0 degree. Another surface is loading. Loading requires the weight acceptance and shock absorption. In this phase, hip will be in 25 to 30 degree flexion, whereas the knee will be up to 15 degree flexion, along with ankle into 15-degree plantar flexion. The prime movers are tibialis anterior, quadriceps, and gluteus maximus. As tibialis anterior will maintain the range of motion at the ankle, whereas the quadriceps will maintain range of motion at the knee, and gluteus maximus will be responsible for the management of hip range of motion. Another surface is mid stance. It requires the single limb support. In this phase, the hip should be in full extension with knee into 5-degree flexion. Remember, in stance with a single limb support, there will be 5-degree flexion, not full extension. And ankle will be in 15-degree plantar flexion to 15-degree dorsiflexion. It will move from the 15-degree plantar flexion to 15-degree dorsiflexion. Remember, I am repeating again. It will move from 15-degree plantar flexion to 15-degree dorsiflexion. In this position, the ankle is in 15-degree dorsiflexion. The prime movers for these maintaining of range of motion are gastrocnemius, soleus, gluteus maximus, medius, minimus, and tensor fasciolata. As gastrocnemius and soleus will maintain range of motion at the knee, gluteus maximus, medius, and minimus will maintain hip, and tensor fasciolata will maintain overall the limb in straight position. Another surface is terminal stance. It requires propulsion. Hip will be in 10-degree extension, whereas the knee will move into full extension, and ankle will move from 15-degree dorsiflexion to 20-degree plantar flexion. Remember, in the previous stage or previous phase, there was 15-degree dorsiflexion. Now it has become into 20-degree plantar flexion. In this phase, the prime mover are gastrocnemius, as the gastrocnemius is preventing the knee from going into extension. Another phase is pre-swing. In this, it is also require propulsion as limb is going to advancement. Hip will be in 10-degree extension in this surface, and knee will be in 40-degree flexion, along with ankle into 20-degree plantar flexion. The prime movers for this range of motion are gastrocnemius, hip adductors, and rectus femoris, as gastrocnemius will maintain knee into flexion and hip adductors will maintain the hip into adduction position, and rectus femoris will resist hip from going into extension. The another subphase is initial swing. It requires the limb shortening for foot clearance. As you see in the picture, the foot is above the floor. It is not attached with the floor. This phase requires hip from extension to 25 to 30-degree flexion and knee into 40 to 60-degree flexion along with ankle into neutral dorsiflexion. Tibialis anterior, hamstring and iliopsoas are the primers for this phase as tibialis anterior will maintain ankle into dorsiflexion, the neutral dorsiflexion, whereas the hamstring will contract and keep flexion of the knee about 40 to 60 degree. And the iliopsoas will resist hip from going into extension as it is maintaining the hip into flexion about 25 to 30 degree. Another subphase is mid-swing. Mid-swing require the limb shortening for foot clearance and also the generation of momentum. In this phase, the hip will be in 25 to 30 degree flexion and knee into 60-degree flexion, whereas the ankle into neutral position. The tibialis anterior and iliopsoas are the prime mover muscles for these range of motion, as tibialis anterior is maintaining the ankle into neutral position against the gravity, as tibialis anterior is maintaining the foot into neutral position against the gravity, and iliopsoas is maintaining the hip into flexion about 25 to 30 degree. It is also maintaining against the gravity. Another phase is terminal swing. In this phase, the requirement is limb advancement, as in this phase, limb is going forward, whereas there is also the preparation for the initial contact, as it is going to heel strike, and there is also the deceleration, as the individual will decrease the speed of the limb. At this phase, the range of motion at the hip joint will be 25 to 30-degree flexion and knee into full extension, whereas the ankle will be in neutral position. The tibialis anterior, gluteus maximus, and hamstring would be the prime mover muscles to maintain these range of motion. Tibialis anterior will maintain ankle into neutral position against the gravity. Gluteus maximus will maintain the hip into 25 to 30-degree flexion as resisting the hip from going into more flexion. The hamstring will resist the knee from going into more extension. As we all know that in our body there are two types of forces which are acting. Those are external and internal forces. The external forces are those forces which are acting from outside of the body. Those are gravity, friction, ground reactional force, and inertia. The gravity is due to the weight, whereas the friction is the against force on the ground which resists the part of the body which can be soul. The ground reactional force are equal and opposite force, or it can be equal to the magnitude of the part of the body. And the inertia is the property of the limb to be in a same position. It can be rest or moving in a straight line unless the external force is applied. The internal forces may be active muscle forces and passive tissue forces. As muscle contracts, it provides the internal force, and the passive forces are provided by the soft tissue structures, which can be bone, muscle, ligament. This picture describes the ground reactional force as arrow describes force against the heel. In this picture, the red dot shows the contact area, as we can say that in initial contact, the line of gravity is passing in the limb and providing the ground reactional force from the heel. In the loading phase, the ground reactional force is applied proximal to the heel, whereas in the mid-stance phase, the ground reactional force is providing proximal to the mid of the foot. In the pre-swing phase, line of gravity shows it is putting in the forefoot and the ground reactional force is providing over the head of metatarsal, first metatarsal. The ground reactional forces during the gait can be defined as reaction force equal in magnitude and opposite in direction to the force that the body exerts on the supporting surface through the foot. The ground reactional force has three components, which is vertical, anterior-posterior, and mediolateral. These three components are in opposite direction to the weight of the body, as shown in the diagram. With the help of these arrows, this picture shows three types of contraction, which is concentric, eccentric, and isometric. The concentric contraction occurs during the swing phase, and the eccentric contraction occurs during the stance phase, whereas the isometric contraction occurs throughout the gait cycle in order to stabilize the proximal and distal joints. In the last of lecture, there is always a quote. Today's quote is, staying with the good people creates mental maturity within the person. Thank you.